In the year 2006, NASCAR looked a whole lot different than it does now. NASCAR in 2006 was Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson, Mark Martin, etc. Nextel was in the third year of a massive new title sponsorship deal. There were massive crowds, massive TV ratings, but also NASCAR was nearing the end of its mainstream era. Today we're looking at movies. In the early 2000s, NASCAR was all over Hollywood. Drivers were appearing in blockbuster films, historical movies were being made about some of the great figures in NASCAR's past, and who could forget Herbie Fully Loaded, starring Lindsay Lohan. Compare all of that to NASCAR in media today. Hollywood's not making any new Days of Thunders. I mean, occasionally you'll see like Joey Logano on Disney Channel.
Wait, you've been cheating the whole time?
Yeah! But NASCAR's involvement with the movie-making industry has not been the same since 2006. In fact, two movies, released just 2 months apart in 2006, would collectively serve as NASCAR's mainstream grand finale. Those two movies were Talladega Nights and Cars. We're gonna talk about and compare those two films today. Before we go any further, I guess this goes without saying, but spoiler alert, some spoilers will probably be discussed. The movies are like 14 years old, so I'm just doing this as a courtesy, honestly. Disney and Pixar released Cars to theaters on June 9th, 2006. While it was met with overall pretty good critical and commercial success, the film made over $460 million. Many considered it to be Pixar's first bump in the road, no pun intended. Pixar's track record was nearly flawless. So when little 8-year-old Eric rolled into the theater to see Pixar's attempt at a NASCAR-themed movie, his expectations were extremely high. Cars is about Lightning McQueen, an uber-talented but selfish young race car who finds himself stuck in the forgotten town of Radiator Springs just days before the season's championship race. It's a lighthearted, animated family comedy with memorable characters and a simple but well-fleshed-out story. McQueen eventually warms up to the small town and its residents and learns that friendship and doing the right thing is more important than just winning. The film features an all-star voice cast: Owen Wilson, Larry the Cable Guy, Bonnie Hunt, Paul Newman as the legendary Doc Hudson, Michael Keaton, Tony Shalhoub, and many more. The first Cars was successful enough that Disney and Pixar turned it into a series. Of course, now Cars is a complete trilogy, with the most recent movie being released in 2017, but we're focusing on 2006. There was another NASCAR-themed movie that came out just a short while later. Well, if you ain't first, you're last. Shortly after Cars hit theaters, Sony dropped their own cinematic take on the world of stock car racing into theaters. Talladega Nights: The Ballad of Ricky Bobby was released on August 6th, 2006. The film was co-written by and stars Will Ferrell as Ricky Bobby, a NASCAR star whose career spirals out of control after a traumatic crash. Desperate to get back to the top of the sport, the movie follows Ricky Bobby's bizarre journey, and along the way he learns about things that are more important than just winning races. That actually sounds pretty familiar. Talladega Nights actually received similar critical acclaim to Cars upon release, but lagged behind at the box office, making $163 million on like a roughly $70 million budget. Another all-star cast lined up for this one. The movie stars Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly, Sacha Baron Cohen, Amy Adams, Jane Lynch, and more. These are two films released less than 2 months apart that follow similar source material, with honestly similar storylines in many ways, that still somehow manage to go two completely different directions and have left two completely different impressions on NASCAR fans then and NASCAR fans now. And so today, as a longtime NASCAR fan myself and a movie guy, I graduated from film school, people may not know that, I'm gonna break these two movies down into 3 categories, and I will tell you which was the best NASCAR movie of 2006. The first difference I'm going to focus on is the way the two films represent the real-life NASCAR world. And this is honestly going to be the focus of my argument. Let's start with Cars. Cars is weird because it's not people, it's anthropomorphic, talking, living, breathing, I guess they breathe, right? Cars. They're cars. But if we just look at the presentation of Cars, gosh, that opening scene is absolutely flawless. The film knocks us out of our seats right from the get-go, portraying NASCAR as the freaking Super Bowl, which I guess makes sense. I mean, this is a world where everyone is cars. I mean, do they even have football? Like, racing's gotta be the biggest sport, right? The racing scenes in this movie are on the grandest scale. Unfortunately, however, a large portion of the movie Cars does not take place at the racetrack. Most of the movie takes place in Radiator Springs, on Route 66, out in the middle of the desert, mostly tucked away from the racing world. Of course, Lightning McQueen, a race car based on a NASCAR car or driver, is there. Doc Hudson, who's based on the legendary, fabulous Hudson Hornet, plays an integral part of the story and serves as Lightning McQueen's mentor. So you still have two ties to the NASCAR world, very much prevalent and very much important to the story during this long middle section of the film. Other ways Cars relates to real world NASCAR, there's some nods to the business side of thing. One of Lightning McQueen's largest goals at the beginning of the film is to land Dynaco as a major sponsor. Dynaco, the logo is a dinosaur, it's based on the Sinclair oil, but the name Dynaco is sort of a play on Sunoco, the official fuel of NASCAR. Anyway, it's a total pun. It's even petty blue to throw that in there. But there's that business aspect of sponsorship. At first, Lightning McQueen doesn't love his sponsor, Rust-eze, but at the end of the movie, he decides to stick with Rust-eze because they're the sponsors that gave him his big break. Now, of course, in a movie about talking cars, there are certainly some things that aren't super realistic, but it does show you how Cars represents the NASCAR world differently than Talladega Nights, which let's talk about now. Now, despite being a live action movie, very little about Talladega Nights is realistic either.
They raced each other on foot.
Yep, I'm flying through the air.
Talladega Nights is a satirical comedy. It's not meant to be taken seriously. The whole movie is basically one long continuous joke, and that's kind of the point of it. It's a Will Ferrell summer comedy. Similar to Cars, Talladega Nights does a very good job of making NASCAR look like a big deal. The stands are packed in all of those shots. Fans are out of their seats, hyped up, excited. The most obvious difference between the two movies in this case is the fact that Talladega Nights actually uses the name NASCAR and uses many of their logos, many of their sponsors, many of their tracks. You see the cars obviously at Talladega, but also at tracks like Charlotte. In Talladega Nights, it's NASCAR. Cars, it's the Piston Cup Series, which is obviously a play on the Winston Cup Series, but it's not actually called NASCAR. It's absurd, but in Talladega Nights, you are seeing real-life NASCAR people, places, and things. Now, the most notable difference between Cars and Talladega Nights is the tone. And this is what makes Talladega Nights controversial to some NASCAR fans. Because, quite frankly, while the movie is satirical, it's a comedy, the vast majority of the jokes are at the expense of NASCAR fans and NASCAR culture. The movie is extremely reliant on NASCAR stereotypes. The fictional NASCAR driver characters are all portrayed as dumb, absurd, childish. The running joke throughout the movie is that NASCAR drivers are kind of dumb. And a lot of the jokes play off that really simple and kind of overdone trope. Now, in my experience, most NASCAR fans I've talked to don't really mind it. They just don't care. And in many cases, they actually find it quite funny. So I'm not saying every NASCAR fan. In fact, I'm not even saying most. I'm saying probably a select few NASCAR fans feel negatively towards this movie, but it is something worth noting, and it's a clear difference between Cars and Talladega Nights. But we'll move on for now. I want to talk about my second big category, and that is famous racer cameos. Both movies are full of appearances from real-life NASCAR figures. In Cars, of course, it's all animated, so it's voices. You have Richard Petty voicing the King, Darrell Waltrip as Darrell Cartrip. These names. Humpy Wheeler actually plays Tex, the head of Dynaco. The later Cars movies also feature many driver cameos, but Cars 1 is fairly limited. Talladega Nights takes the cameos to the next level. Being a live-action movie, you see many familiar faces in that picture. All the broadcasters, Larry McReynolds, Mike Joy, Darrell Waltrip, Bill Weber, Wally Dallenbach, Benny Parsons, Dick Berggren. And there's some great bits with drivers have cameos, like Greg Biffle has a cameo, Dale Earnhardt Jr. has a cameo, Casey Mears has a cameo.
Hey man, I'm gonna wreck you today. I'm just kidding.
And during a lot of the on-track racing scenes, if you look in the background, you'll see plenty of race cars and paint schemes that you recognize from real-life NASCAR. So I will say, as a NASCAR fan, when I watch these two movies, I do appreciate seeing familiar faces on screen. Both movies do a good job of this, but Talladega Nights definitely goes above and beyond. So I give them a point. I'm not really giving points. I'm not really keeping score like that, but, you know, credit where credit is due to Talladega Nights. I do like, though, in Cars that all of the drivers are technically playing characters. I mean, yeah, Darrell Cartrip is basically Darrell Waltrip. He's playing himself. It's just animated, but it's still kind of fun that he's a character. You know, in Talladega Nights, you know, Mike Joy is Mike Joy. Like, that's how it's listed on IMDb. I mean, it's not quite as exciting, but it's the same thing. Third category I want to look at is which movie has the best quotes. You guys think I'm silly, but these two movies are chock full of memorable one-liners, catchphrases, all that great stuff. Talladega Nights, I will say, has a lot in this category.
Chip, I'm gonna come at you like a spider monkey.
Of course, Shake and Bake and the iconic line we've already used in this video, if you ain't first, you're last. Some of those lines are among the most memorable lines in all of cinema history, not gonna lie. Not just racing movies, not just NASCAR movies, but just movies of the last 20 years. I mean, Shake and Bake, if you ain't first, you're last. I mean, you see those things on t-shirts. You see bumper stickers with those slogans on them everywhere you look. So Talladega Nights has a lot of great quotes. Cars does too. Most famously, I'd say, is the catchphrase, ka-chow. I mean, who doesn't love a good ka-chow every now and then? I wonder who came up with ka-chow. In my head, I'd like to think Owen Wilson just made it up and the producers at Disney were like, print it. But knowing Disney, there were probably 100 people involved in the decision, like tweaking the enunciation slightly, like, oh, is the emphasis on the ka or the chow? I'm sure they had like 50 focus groups on that. But other great quotes, you know, the "it's just an empty cup" line is famous. Or even the intro, the first line of the movie with Lightning McQueen in darkness before the big race.
Focus. Speed. I am speed.
I mean, that's a great line. Again, that intro to Cars is absolutely fantastic. So both movies have a lot of great quotes. Both movies have a lot of great characters. Both movies have a ton of great cameos from real world NASCAR stars. But which movie is the best NASCAR movie of 2006? I was right in Pixar's target demographic when Cars came out. I was already a NASCAR fan when I saw it in theaters, but I've gotten tons of comments on this channel over the years from people who said Cars was their first introduction to stock car racing. It's what led them to becoming a fan of real world NASCAR. Now, I didn't see Talladega Nights for the first time until I was like 13 or 14 years old. It was released at a time when Will Ferrell was a household name, having recently done Zoolander, Elf in 2003, Anchorman in 2004. So it's no surprise that that movie was also extremely popular. But looking back years later, it's clear NASCAR doesn't always look at Talladega Nights super fondly. In fact, NASCAR's VP of Entertainment, when talking about Logan Lucky, which was produced in 2017, it was a bit more serious of a NASCAR themed film. He said, "We wanted to make sure Logan Lucky was the antithesis of Talladega Nights." And this goes back to what I harped on my first point. Most NASCAR fans are super laid back and chill. They understand that, sure, Talladega Nights is poking fun at NASCAR, poking fun at its drivers, its fans to an extent, the culture. But a lot of NASCAR fans are super laid back, super chill. They're able to laugh at themselves. They're able to laugh at portrayal of the sport. They just have a good time, and I respect the heck out of that. But there are a portion of NASCAR fans, and there are a portion of non-NASCAR fans that might have reacted to some of those stereotypes that Will Ferrell and company played off of negatively. I would say NASCAR benefited from both films, Cars and Talladega Nights. But in my opinion, Cars did a much better job at telling an easily digestible story that focused on showing NASCAR in the brightest light possible. As funny at times as Talladega Nights is, the occasional sneering tone it takes might be a turnoff to some NASCAR fans and to some potential NASCAR fans. And with that in mind, I have to say that Cars was the best NASCAR themed movie released in 2006. That's right, an animated movie about talking cars, starring Larry the Cable Guy of all people, is the best NASCAR movie of 2006. In my opinion, at least. That's the beauty of this kind of video. We all can have different opinions, and thanks to the power of the YouTube comment section, you all can leave your opinions down below. Which movie do you like more? Which movie do you believe represents NASCAR best? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you all for watching. This is a different kind of video than I usually do. This was kind of done on a whim, honestly, so I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know if you'd like to see more videos kind of like this one. I mean, I do have a film degree. Maybe I should put it to good use and talk about racing movies. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new. We talk NASCAR all the time. Usually we talk news and current events. Today we're talking movies. I will see you all again very, very soon. Have a fantastic rest of your day, everyone. Thank you for watching.